Minnesota State Representative Emma Greenman joins us now. Thank you so much for being with us. You represent the area where that shooting took place. You've been hearing the stories, the horror that those kids went through, and the parents. What's going through your mind tonight?
Yeah, I mean, you just heard from an 8th grader who, with so much feeling and courage, protected the folks that he was with, the parents. It is now just a place where we're just holding the community, the kids, the families of the victims, the families of the school in our hearts, and trying to wrap as much support and courage around them as possible.
And this happened during the first week of their school. We know that public school starts next week. We heard from the children that have been through like the active shooting drills. And yet, you know, you look at it, Minnesota has red flag laws. It's got background checks, permit to purchase laws. Hindsight is obviously 2020 and so painful in something like this. But how do you move forward to try to prevent this from happening in the future?
I mean, we can't become numb to this that keeps happening. This morning, it was my community in South Minneapolis, but we know that this has happened in communities across the country, in Texas and Colorado and Florida. And if I started naming the places where there have been mass gun violence aimed at kids, at families, grocery stores, movie theaters, we'd be here all night. And so we need to move forward. We heard the principal earlier in a press conference say, when we pray, we move our feet. We need to move our feet. And so this is a responsibility as adults to these kids, to the victims and their families, that we will not let this happen again and keep happening and be numb to it. So we can talk about the laws we passed. There is so much more work to do. And we know that this is not a Minnesota issue. This is a national issue. We have just now become a part of that heartbreaking and tragic community of communities that have suffered this real horrific pain.
You're talking about not becoming numb as society. And I got to say, you know, we've covered so many mass shootings like this, and yet there was a time before social media and before instant communication where we didn't necessarily see things like manifestos or videos that were shot by the shooters. And then there was a time in which those things seemed to disappear and they were harder to find. And now we are back to a time where those things, unfortunately, are relatively easy to find. And we are back in this conversation where whether you give it notoriety or you don't, people are going to see this and people are going to possibly get sucked into hateful ideologies. How do you prevent that from happening, and how do you keep society from going numb to this type of violence?
I mean, I think that I'm really glad you're centering the stories of the kids and their families. This is a beautiful community, just like all the communities that have been rocked by this across the country. And we need people to turn to each other. We need people to turn to both their neighbors and every level of government and say, we can and will do better by our kids. There are things we can do. We know that there have been laws in the past, including national laws, that prevented these weapons of war from being in our communities, and they worked and kept people safe. Gun violence is the #1 killer of kids, and we have to say enough. And right now it's my community, but I know, to your point, that if we don't take this aggressive action, if we don't take it at every state in every country and across the nationally, then we are going to be here. And we know other countries don't have this problem. So please keep centering the stories of the families and communities that are what we are losing, and this whole act of mass violence is about terrorizing communities, and it is about shifting focus from what we know, which is good, important people, good communities, and frankly, kids. And these kids who can't go to school without doing shooter drills or feeling afraid. And that's just not the country and the state we want to live in.
Yeah, Minnesota State Representative Emma Greenman, thank you so much for your time, and our prayers go out to you and your community.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.